in the in the Tanakh it says that the first of Tishri is the day of a memorial of the blowing of trumpets. A memorial means what? When you do a memorial, what are you doing?
Remembering.
You're remembering. So memorial of the day of trumpets, what are we remembering? If it's a memorial, we're remembering some trumpets. And what we're doing, we're remembering the shofars on Mount Horeb. When the Torah was given, so the trumpets blew louder and louder and louder and louder. Remember, this is the trumpets, the memorial where trumpets were remembered. And with Rosh Hashanah, is the day of Memorial Day of Trumpet, is associated the time of repentance that we sang Adonai Yireh, which because we really can't do it ourselves. We need the Lamb who takes away the sin of the world. The day of Elijah, this is it has an end-time tone, which is about Rosh Hashanah also, as we will see. And it's a time where we're going to talk today about the ingathering, the great ingathering. And this is why we sang Bet Yaakov Nigun, about calling the Beit Yaakov to regather together and walk in the way of Adonai. Mama, can you bring me some water, please? So we're going to talk about the ingathering. And Abba Father asked that you be with us as we go through this midrash. Help it to be direction giving and edifying and instructive and challenging to B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach. Thank you. So, one of the readings that is done in Rosh Hashanah is Jeremiah 30 and 31. Mostly Jeremiah 31, but Jeremiah 31, before Jeremiah 31 there is Jeremiah 30, and very often, and we need to really be careful to not interpret verses without their context. And the context sometimes can be several chapters ahead of time. So in Jeremiah 31 we have what's known as the Brit Chadasha, the renewed covenant. But we got to understand what it says there, we're going to start Jeremiah 30 verse 1, which says, Jeremiah 30 verse 1, this word came to Yirmiyahu from Adonai. So the word came from Adonai to Yirmiyahu. And Jeremiah 1 to 29 had a litany of rebukes. Oh, you're doing this, and you're doing that, and this is wrong, and your sins, and you're going to go in exile, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. A litany of rebukes from Adonai. Okay? So, and all of a sudden, the word comes, and the word comes and says, and I don't have it here. Okay. 30 verse 1 says, when the time arrives that all the things that have come upon you, both the blessing and the curse, that's what we read today, which I've presented to you, and you are there among the nations, which Adonai your God has driven you, then at last you will start thinking about what has happened to you. And you will return to Adonai your God, pay attention to what he has said, which will be exactly what I've ordering you to do today. You and your children with all your heart and all your being, at that point, Adonai your God will reverse your exile, show you mercy. He will return and gather you from all the people to which Adonai scattered you. So this is talking about the great exile, okay? This is talking about the great exile, the great return, the ingathering. And if one of yours was scattered to the fire of the sky, Adonai your God will gather you even from there. He will go there and get you. Adonai your God will bring you back into the land your ancestors possessed. And you will possess it. And He will make you prosper there. You will become even more numerous than your ancestors. Verse 6, and Adonai your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your children, so that you will love Adonai your God with all your heart and all your being, and thus you will live. So this is really important.
What chapter is that?
This was Jeremiah 30, verse 1 until verse 6.
30.
30. So here I want to make a little context thing, okay? Okay? Jeremiah 30 is followed by Jeremiah 31, okay? Okay? That makes sense, right? Everybody follows me there, okay? In Jeremiah 31, we have what's called the Brit Chadashah, right? The new covenant. Now, when you read the Brit Chadashah, you're being told, when we read, the way people understand it, okay, is that the Brit Chadashah leads us into something called the rapture, where one day people are all taken to somewhere called heaven, and the bad people, all the good people are taken somewhere called heaven, and all the good people are left down to suffer punishment. Mostly Jews, unbelieving Jews. Okay? So, but this is given to us through verses, and I'm not going to read them, but I'll give the reference. 1 Thessalonians 4:16, 1 Corinthians 1 Thessalonians 4:16 to 18, 1 Corinthians 15:51 through 54, and Philippians 3:20 to 21. These are the verses that are used for that. This is what's called end time as per New Testament. But this understanding, as we said before, is very new. Before that, people understood these verses. The people in the days of Paul understood these verses in Thessalonians and Corinthians not as the rapturial, all the good people are going to go to somewhere called heaven. But what they understood it is within the verses in Deuteronomy 30, that one day Hashem will take His people back from all the lands where they have been scattered and bring them back to the land. So this was really the original understanding of these verses, from a long time ago. The rapture idea that people have today is maybe 150 years old. It was started by somebody called Darby in the 19th century. Okay? 19th or even 20th century. I think it's 19th century. He's the one who published a book that went everywhere, and that started this belief. Before that, it did not exist. It did not exist. And we have to think about it. We have to think about it. There's a verse that I really like in Deuteronomy. It says, if you don't know, ask your fathers, they will tell you. Ask the ancients. We're supposed to get wisdom from the ancients, from the first people, not the newbies who reinterpret everything. You see, people have a tendency to think that the newer one is the better, but the older one is actually the more authentic. The older understanding is closer to the truth and the newer understanding. So that said, we can go to Jeremiah. We can continue. We're going to read Jeremiah 30 and 32. You know, what I read before was not Jeremiah 30. You couldn't find it there?
Yeah,
It was, I'm sorry. It was Deuteronomy 30.
Oh.
Okay. I made a mistake there. You know, it was between Deuteronomy 30, Jeremiah 30, I get mixed up. What I read before was Deuteronomy 30.
And 31. And
Yeah.
followed by 31 from Deuteronomy. Right?
Yeah. So now, with the understanding of Deuteronomy 30, which talks about the great ingathering from the great exile, and we got to realize we live in such a time. I don't know if this is the fulfillment. I mean, I cannot say we live in the middle of it. But I do know that in 1947, Israel was returning back. In 1948, the UN signed Israel could be a country, and it's been fought ever since. And since that time, the Jewish people in exile have returned by the millions. So I don't know if this is a fulfillment of this, but I think so, but can never say. But in the meantime, it's happening. It's happening. I mean, if you watch pictures, movie clips of those days, you see people on ships coming from Russia, coming from everywhere, from Greece, filling the land. I mean, it's incredible. It's like, and then you read the Bible and say, whoa, He's going to bring them back from all the lands wherein they've been scattered. So, and this was the original thing. So here is Jeremiah 30 now. Okay, Jeremiah 30. This is what Adonai, your God, the God of Israel, says. Write all the words I have spoken to you in a scroll. For the day is coming, says Adonai, when I will reverse the exile of my people, Israel and Yehuda. So it's talking about the 10 tribes and Judah. You see, we got to see, Jeremiah is talking. Israel has been, the 10 tribes have been in exile in Assyria for 150 years. Judah hasn't gone yet to Babylon. But it's on its way. So but before even the punishment is given, he's given the cure, he's given the consolation. Before they even went, so, after a while, they will come back. I will cause them to return to the land I gave to their ancestors, and they will take possession of it. That land included the West Bank. And I think our leaders, they need to read this verse. It says, they will take possession of it. And if you look at the news, I mean, everybody is alarmed that Israel is building settlements on the West Bank. It's a divine right. It's a divine right. You may not agree with it, but it says here that will cause, and the person who's causing the return, it's not the UN, it's not NATO, it's not the US. Some people say it was Hitler because it happened after Hitler that everybody came back. But here it says, it's I here is Adonai. I will cause them to return to the land I gave to their ancestors and will take possession of it. Jeremiah 30 verse 4. These are the words Adonai spoke concerning Israel and Yehuda. 5. Here is what Adonai says. We have heard a cry of terror, of fear and not of peace. And now, ask now and see. Can man give birth to children? What do you think? No. Can man give birth to children? Why then do I see all the men with their hands on their stomach? Pregnant women are like this sometimes. Right? With their hands on their stomach in labor, with every face turned pale. how dreadful that day will be. There has never been one like it, a time of trouble for Yaakov. But out of it, he will be saved. On that day, says Adonai Tzvaot, I will break his yoke from off your neck. I will snap your chains. Foreigners will no longer enslave him. Now, speculation, okay? Speculation. It says here, trouble for Yaakov, that there will be no one like it. There will be no other like it. Okay? I think if you ever read in depth studies of the Holocaust, to me, I read that stuff, I look at this stuff, what happened in the Holocaust, and I wonder, how worse could it get?
Really?
You know, I mean, how worse could it get for the Jewish people? I mean, what worse can you do? I mean, the Holocaust is really the epitome of the worst that you can do to a nation, to a country. It's horrible. I mean, there's no word to describe it. So let's say some people, some teachers, they say the trouble of Jacob was that. I don't know, when you get into prophecy, you have to always wait. But you can play and speculate. Let's say it was that. After the Holocaust, really, Hitler, by wanting to destroy the Jews, he actually did them a favor. Because after what happened in the Holocaust, that's when the Zionist movement said, never, never, never again. We're not going to be prey to the nations. We're moving in, we're going to Israel. And the country was started in 1947, voted by the UN in 1948. I mean, the World War II was done in 1945. 1946 was the Nuremberg trials in Nuremberg, Germany. You know, it's a